what is the problem with the flag in England? And is that William Wallace I can hear screaming, or is it my Scottish relatives, particularly my mum, going, what the fuck are you wearing an England flag for? I haven't actually raised any flags. I have put them on the ground previously in the last few months. And I wanted to do a video about this because I think suddenly, if you're not watching the news, which most people aren't watching the news, they would have missed a couple of little interviews that came through a few months ago. And if you missed these tiny wee snips, then you're in a situation where you'd probably go, why the fuck are suddenly flags everywhere in England? And you wouldn't know what the controversy was, because I saw it and I was like, what the fuck? And I immediately went out with my chalk because I was doing some scribing like Bert off of Mary Poppins. I started having a bit of fun with that, and I did add a little bit of political quality to some of my stuff out in the pavements in Plymouth when I was down there a wee while back. So the flag controversy, the main sort of point that suddenly there was no problem at all with the English flag that I knew of until a few months ago. There was a little girl that did a project at school, which was a culture day, and you could come in and celebrate a specific culture. Now she chose the British culture, her culture, and she came in wearing a sort of Jerry Halliwell dress and basically a little English hat. And she wrote a speech all about how she was proud of her country and the British flag. And unfortunately, the little girl was segregated and removed from the classroom in a punishment way. And she was actually told to leave the school, told to leave and go home. And the poor young thing got pulled out of school unfairly. Obviously, that's insane. I mean, if you're able to celebrate a culture, but there seemed to be a problem with the British culture, with the flag in particularly, the Union Jack. It wasn't the St. George flag. Hang on a minute, it's the Union Jack if it's on the Union flag, sorry. So it's the Union Jack if it's on a boat, it's a Union flag if it's just a flag.
Hello, my name is Courtney Wright, and on Friday we had a culture day at school, and I was told I couldn't take part and I had to go change, and then I was kept isolated from my friends and my lessons and put in reception for half the day.
Being told what they can and can't do. I think people have had enough about being told what they can and can't do, being proud to celebrate their own culture and their own history.
I don't fully agree with the school because she must have worn it innocently and not knowing the full meaning. Maybe she thinks it's just a beautiful costume.
So basically, I have to do a video about this because it's one of the ones that's before the flag started to go up around the country. I actually went out and made a flag sort of motif. I don't know what motif is the word. I went and did a bit of scribing on the pavement, and this is the picture that I put up, and I put it up on a few different things on Reddit, and it was really good. It started to get a conversation going. A lot of people said the British flag isn't controversial at all. This was before all the flags went up in England. This was a few weeks before, about 3 weeks before it happened, and I was really outraged by it, and I was really, really grateful that this conversation picked up, and we had a really big debate. There's people all around the world that were talking about it with me. One person was like, what, the British flag? It's been away from England for years, it's a controversial thing. And I actually sort of did a play on the my partner sort of was talking about the Confederate flag being sort of in a weird position, that people had pride in it, but they didn't mean a racial factor. It was a edgy issue in America to have the Confederate flag, and I could feel that our British flag was becoming a real similar weird issue. And basically I went out and put some of my opinions out on the pavement. I even did a free speech one because I was really concerned about what was going on with what was attempted to be a British bulldog, but it didn't really work out very well. And I did a few sort of intentionally tried to do some comedic sort of stuff as well, just a little bit of a fuck you to Keir Starmer. So yeah, basically the clip I'm going to go and pop up here is the one that really got me to go, what the fuck? I know we have to move, we have to do something about this. This is a real problem. And it gave me a load of confidence because I saw this as a problem before it sort of hit the fan, and I was really, really proud of myself for noticing that. So basically Operation Raise the Flags come in, and I noticed all the flags going up, and I believe it was similar people to me who realised that there was a problem going on, and that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it. Plus, the fact is that in England, I don't know if many people know this, but for the last 2 years running, the number one name in this country has been Mohammed. So there is a different culture coming in England, and yeah, I feel that the British people are quite wary. The ones that have been watching the news have become quite wary about, well, a big chunk of people have become quite wary about this. So Operation Raise the Flags happened, and I think it's a good thing. I think a lot of people seem to think it's a racist thing, or it means that you're unwelcome. It's not. It's a country that's always been brilliant with immigration. I work with people that are immigrants. I've had my stepmother come across from Macedonia, so she was an immigrant. I've seen firsthand how shitty it is to have someone come home and be treated badly by that, by the shitty people. And I don't believe that the people raising the flags en masse are that at all. I think there's been a really good movement of mums that have come out wearing pink. They're doing like pink union flags, and they were singing ABBA songs and stuff. I'll see if I can find a clip and pop them up here now. So it's a wonderful movement, in my opinion, because it's a bunch of people that are holding on to their culture, because this culture is under threat. It's been considered the butcher's apron by some cultures. I'm in the middle of editing, and I just realised I missed out on an important story about a gentleman that put up a flag on his own property. The government asked people not to put things on lampposts or on the bridges because they might fall off and get into the car's path. Whereas this one gentleman that I saw the story on, he put it up in his own property, on his own property. There was another owner that did it similarly with a cafe, and the council attempted to try and take those things down. So even on your own property, an Englishman's home is no longer his castle in the UK.
So within about 10 minutes of putting the flagpole up, we had a knock at the front door. One of the neighbours saying it upset them. Can I take it down, please? I said I'd see what I would do, and basically no, I left it up. Patriotism comes first. The next thing was we had about 6 or 7 visits in one day from the neighbours again, and then over the next couple of days another 6 or 7, and then it stopped. I thought, okay, everybody gets on, let's just carry on. And then within 48 hours I had a solicitor's letter through saying I've got to remove the flag and the flagpole because it was causing a nuisance. And they actually used an excerpt from not the deeds, the contract that we signed when we bought.
The Irish, I ain't gonna go there, man. Like, I'm Scottish relatives. I was Scottish born, and I was raised in Cornwall. So I have no problem with the English. The English has been where I've had my home. The England people have been my compadres. They're who I've worked with. I think British culture is a wonderful thing. I think we've got a really good, polite society. We've got a really awesome culture, and I think it should be celebrated. And that happened. You can see that there is something wrong here. And I had people telling me online, there's nothing wrong with the English flag. The English flag isn't this or that. It's not considered provocative or anything. I fucking beg to differ, as you can see in the last few weeks. And I think that the big problem with a lot of it is that people on one side think, we've got built the back of Britain on, immigrants, and we have a massive, really good population of people from different countries and cultures around the world. And one of the best things about England is it's got a mongrel history. We've got so much in there. We've got the Romans and the Saxons and the Vikings, and there's so many different things and bloodlines that have been mixed in to create this amazing country. And basically, I think that the big issue for me personally, how I see it from my perspective, is that an immigrant that's an economic immigrant is very different to an asylum seeker. An asylum seeker is someone who is in desperate need of safety and security, and they're running from a country to another country where they're safe. So if you were coming from Afghanistan or something, and you were, being chased down by your people, and you were going to be at risk of death, and you were on a flight and you came to England, then you would be classed as an asylum seeker. But if you're an asylum seeker that's come from Afghanistan and moved through Europe and come through to France and stood on the beaches of France, jumped on a dinghy and come across, then you're no longer an asylum seeker. You were back there a couple of countries ago. You don't get to come out of a country and go, I get to pick and choose where I go in the world that's best for me. So the moment, in my opinion, that they come on that boat, they're not an asylum seeker anymore. Also, the first thing you do when you come into a country is to break the law. It's not acceptable, in my opinion. So so every single person on a boat that comes across is a criminal, and that's not just my opinion, because people who break the law are criminals, and these people are breaking the law by entering the country in a criminal manner. So every single one of them, in my opinion, is a criminal, and I feel desperately sad for them, because I feel that there's people have been using these people. I feel that the left is being used, and these people are being used, and I think that Farage will get in and will remove all these people back home who have spent their life, world, savings and gone through amazing amounts of danger to get to this country for good reason. I mean, why would you not? If you're in a shitty country halfway around the world with no economic growth and no future, you would get on a boat and go, just the same as the people did who were going for the Americas all those years ago, you know. Yeah, and a big thing about England, in my opinion, see, my dad's wife, she came across and she really struggled to get into the country, and the system was really crap, I felt. You know, my dad really had to fight hard to get her across, and she had to fight hard to stay here, and they were in love, and she waited and she did all the right things, and she went through all the different stages you need to go to become a British citizen, and she did that, and she earned that, and she stood in the queue in a very British way, because it's part of British standards is to stand in a queue and wait your turn, and that's not what these people are doing. And I think that it's by design. I don't think even it's a sort of socialist agenda. I think that these people are being pulled across, and the division between the left and right becomes bigger and bigger, and that's the sort of thing that you need to create enough hatred on both sides, that both sides don't become people anymore. They're monsters, they're horrible people, they're not even human anymore. This is how terrible atrocities happen, because, you know, when the Germans went for the Jews, when the Nazis, went for the Jews, they didn't see people anymore. They saw monsters. They saw not even at the level of animals. They saw nothing. They saw, you know, things that you could just throw in pits and gas and kill, and it wasn't people anymore. And that's how they did that, was they made them inhuman towards each other. And I believe that that's what's happened. So I believe that Farage is going to get in, and I believe that he's going to take the last freedom, which is going to be really dreadful, because I think we've got freedom of speech has been dealt with badly and has been removed in England. Freedom of thought has been removed, because we have thought crimes for the first time in the world. We can actually say it's the first ever. Even China haven't done that, and they tell the world that they can predict crimes, so they can tell that these people, the Uyghurs, they're going to do crimes in the future, and that's why they're in these camps, these education camps. So anyway, I think that it's a very dangerous thing, and I think that these people are being used, and I think that it's working really well, because you can feel the stoking the anger. I mean, you can see it on the Reddit sort of pages, you can see it on the YouTube pages, that there's they're using our passion against us, and they're using these people as fodder, basically, and these people are going to end up suffering at the end of the day. And also, the worst thing about this is that the Farage team, I saw an interview a while ago, and one of them said, you know, what about there's real asylum seekers in this group of people that are coming across, and there are genuine cases in here that are people that are going to go back to, if they get shipped back, they're going to get in terrible trouble, and they said we have to look after our own. And so I think that's going to be a crime against humanity, along with all the other ones that's going on in England currently. So I think that if people understood why those flags went up, I think they'd maybe feel a little bit differently about the people that are putting them up. Because, I mean, as a Scottish born and bred person, I remember someone years ago said to me, support your country in Dutchy College years ago, and they waved a little flag with the George Cross on it, and I was like, oh, it's not my country, I'm Scottish, mate, I'm Scottish originally. And I'm like, actually, yeah, I'm Scottish born, I'm, of Scottish blood. I must say, though, I stand with England. I stand with Britain. I stand underneath that flag, and I salute it because it's my flag. It's my country. I'm proud of that, and I think that that's the thing that people don't understand what's going on with Operation Raise the Flags. I think that people need to be more aware. I think people need to watch the news. I think they need to watch both sides of the news. You need to watch what the lefty news is saying and what the righty news is saying, so you can get a good overview and ask yourself, where's that information coming from? Where did they get the source from? And I think critical thinking is in dire need of, I don't know, rejuvenation. So I think this is my attempt to pop something out there about the flag situation. And much as I can imagine, there's going to be at least one of my Scottish family that are watching it, and they're probably like, these people cry like hell when they watch Braveheart. Well, I think there's a lot worse than the past of England. England has a terrible past in many ways. It's also the country that stopped slavery. It's like, and slavery was a worldwide issue. My friend Ed made a really good book on it recently, and I intend to get to the end of it. It's incredibly fascinating. I'm going to see if I can actually pop it up. There we go. That's E.T. James, A World Enslaved, The Untold Story of Slavery, 1200 to 1700. And it's mind-blowing how much of a history there is. I mean, like Korea had like 1,000 years of unbroken slavery. There was a culture in the world that only used slaves as money. That was the only, what's the word? Legal tender in their country was people. And I think that a lot of people think that the British was jumping off the ships and running around Africa just rounding people up. No. Africa had a very good, thriving slave trade going, and they came covered in wool and, the clothing of the day, and they were not really very good in the tropics. The English people were dying. It's why the empire was actually given back, was because they couldn't keep the people alive. In the tropics, we kept dropping like flies. It's not our climate. And I think people don't realise that those slaves were sold as goods. That was a normal thing. And I'm not saying that's good in any way. I'm just saying that people have a fucked up image as to what happened in the past. And really, we need to open some history books, or open books that people have gone into detail and found that information for, because it's essential. Knowledge is power. During World War II, Britain was the only country to have started and ended the war from day one, and it bankrupted itself, free in the world. And I think that if ever there was a way to pay back for what you've done, then I think that that's a consideration that needs to be taken in. And also, I mean, how far back are we going to go? Should we go to Italy and go and see about what the Romans took? Should we go and, how far back do you want to take these crimes? I mean, this is harking back again. I keep going back to some of the sort of totalitarian things. In the Soviet Union and in Germany, Nazi Germany, you would be in trouble with a thing called sins of the father. So if I went and did something naughty, if I was considered to be against the Soviet Union, for example, and did something nasty, then me and all my family, 3 generations of my family, and probably all my friends and close relatives, close people that were close to me and associated with me, they would be taken down as guilty too, because you're considered guilty by association in that sort of world. And I think that that's something that needs to be considered and needs to be taken on board by people, that we look at this thing with an eye that's sort of warped and squinted over time. It's like, it reminds me of, how you can see there's a bit in Jurassic Park where they're looking at the twisted, remnants of a fossil. That's kind of how we look at history. With a warped eye, we can't see we can't see the creature as it sat. We can see the warp and the history perspective from a different angle. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense what I'm saying there. Anyway, I stand with England, and I'm proud of the English flag, and I hope that other people are proud of the flag too, and I hope that makes a little bit of understanding as to why I'm so happy with the guys that are going across to France and actually standing their ground and looking after the country, because this government isn't doing that, and there is a reason that they're not doing that. And I think that people need to say, why are the British public putting up flags, and why are the government not stopping these boats? Because also, that's a terrifying thing that they're allowing people to do. The people that are dying in that sea, they're real people, and that's a real horror. And I think that the human element is getting lost in this massively. It's a terrible shame, and it's something that needs to stop, and it's something that we all need to go and do our research on, and pick up a book, and maybe buy this book because there's lots of information out there, and knowledge is power, and England needs to get its power back along with its balls. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a good day.